Parents of bullies, how did you found out about your kid being a bully? What was your initial approach? Judging by the lack of comments in this thread, they apparently never find out, or are in denial, or are too ashamed to admit it or read it. Teacher here, 95% of the time, the parents are adult bullies themselves or just can't see it at all. Not a parent, but a few years ago I had to have a chat with my younger brother about how he was treating people. He was calling people horrible things and generally acting like an at school towards others and was starting to get in trouble for it. It was disappointing cause I was bullied at his age, so I sorta sat him down. I was only like 15 and he was 11ish and just explained how horrible it is to be bullied and picked on and asked why he was doing it. He mostly said it was cause that's what his friends did. I told him it wasn't cool to treat people like that and that it can have lasting effects on people, and also basically told him I'm always there for him etc cause I knew he was struggling to adjust to secondary school. Just the generic stuff I guess. He was pretty easy to get through to that early on and as far as I'm aware he hasn't done anything like it since and he seems to be a kind and thoughtful person now, which is great. It just seemed like a case of talking to him about it before it became a serious problem. You don't know how much of an impact you have had on your brother, dude. Just small moments like that can cause such a huge impact on their lives. You are a good brother, mate. I was a bully in school. I've definitely hurt a few people. I got my crap together when I was around 13 or 14 and ended up befriending some of the people I bullied. Though I still feel an intense amount of shame for my actions. You're not seeing any replies here because the parents of bullies do not give a frick. My dad's violence against me was so casual and so common. It felt like a normal part of life. You're supposed to take out your emotions by hurting others. That's what dad and uncle and grandpa do. It took me a very long time to realize that hurting others only perpetuates the cycle of violence, and it made everyone's life worse. As for my parents, my mother did all she could to mitigate the damage. But as a kid I always looked up to my dad and his friends. He was the main male role model I had. He also beat me anytime I spoke back in a way he didn't like or just had a bad day. The emotional damage aside, I just wanted to be like him so he'd show me some kind of love and affection. I still deal with anger issues, although now I have much healthier ways of diffusing them. I haven't so much as slapped anyone since I was 18. I'm 27 now. I'm glad to see you worked out your issues. A lot of people never realize they have any at all. My son has bullying tendencies. He has some anger issues and is diagnosed ADHD. I'll admit, my wife and I weren't good parents years ago. We'd get into yelling matches with him over following rules and listening. We've spent the last year or so learning patience. It's still hard, and man can he be a little crap, but he's improving with us. The hardest part is realizing those things about yourself that you see reflected in your child and acknowledging that yes, they're like this because I raised them to be like this. Whatever issue you have with your kid, look for it in yourself. It's probably there somewhere. That last sentence, it's the truth. I see my flaws in my own kids and it kills me. Not a parent. Speaking for my mother, I was a bit of a bully to this one girl I didn't particularly care for. My mom found out and freaked. It was the first time I heard her say frick, and man did she say it. I was scared into being nice and never did the bullying thing against lest my mother get that angry again. One could say you were bullied into being nice. Kids know the behavior they display whilst bullying at school would not fly at home, as parents would, hopefully, reprimand it. All their parents are bullies too, so no, their parents won't care and would support it as standing up for themselves. I had a trio of girls bully me horrendously at school. They stopped all 1,300 kids talking to me, and all I got was nasty comments and notes from people. I couldn't get the bus home because people would throw stuff at me, shout abuse the whole time, or physically attack me. Once tried ripping my shirt off, which for a girl who developed quickly was traumatizing. And then a group of kids would follow me home. Can I just say thank frick there wasn't social media back then? At least the kids would go once my I stopped eating or going out and was utterly depressed. My mum got my school to deal with it. The girls apologized and then were really nice to me. Anyway, fast forward nearly 20 years. The leader of that pack of girls commented on Facebook about how her daughter stopped a bully, how bullies are the worst people and it must be stopped, and how proud she was of her daughter. I commented saying how great it was her daughter did that and how bullying can affect people for life. From her response, I genuinely think she has no idea that she was a bully and made my life heck for months. I'm glad your daughter learned from your mistakes. I called my son on it when I saw it or found out about it. Once, when he was in first grade, I saw him scare the living crap out of this girl at the bus stop. She started crying, and when I asked him just what the heck he thought was doing, she told me he had done it before. He admitted it, and after school I walked him over to her house and made him apologize to her and her father. Her mom wasn't home. I think he would have rather been beaten, so naturally I made him apologize. A couple of years later I heard him threaten his buddy, "I'll rip your throat out," or some crap like that. I made him apologize again and told him that crap plain old had to stop or his buddy was going home and it was gonna be me and him sitting in the house until he learned how to behave, and I reminded him just how boring hanging out with me was. Thankfully, that was the end of it. And I reminded him just how boring hanging out with me was. I mean, you can't be that bad. After reading that, I'd like to grab a beer with ya. Not my kid but my brother. His best friend let it slip one time that him and my brother used to bully. The way they explained it made me lose all respect for my brother and his best friend. Anyway, they said how they would hang out in school and just scan the place and see which kid they going to bully for the day. They would spot someone. Most of the time it's someone they know, and then they would tease him about something they know would pee them off. Sometimes they would push the person, pull up their hoodie over their head and start hitting the person. People knew about this, and when they do it, a lot of people would join in and start hitting the guy. Then they did other stuff like spitting on the floor while someone is walking and then glaring at the person to see if they have a problem with that. It was all just messed up. They thought that them saying this would make me laugh, but all I did was glare at them and scold them. I explained to them how it might have been funny to them what they did, but that person could have some serious issues by now. It's been years, so we are cool now, and luckily they understand they did and they don't do it anymore. It took a lot of time to convince them of the consequences. I'm thinking all the people who were crappy when younger and turned out fine are because of people like you. Not my kid but me. I was about 10 and there was this girl in my class I used to be best friends with when we were younger. However, as time went on we sort of grew apart. I found a new group of friends. She didn't. I don't remember us ever specifically bullying her or calling her names, but we would never let her join us and would generally just ignore her. Then one evening I was trying to fall asleep and it just hit me. I felt awful and secretly wrote a letter to her, apologizing for not letting her play with us and promising to be nicer from that moment on. I gave it to her in the hallway and ran away after. A couple of days later her mom came to see me at school and told me how grateful she was and how much it meant to her and her daughter. All I remember is feeling embarrassed, but I did rebond with that girl. I've had to rewrite my comment several times because I couldn't express how awesome this is. It goes to show how a little bit of kindness can go a long way. Sometimes all a kid needs is some attention from their peers, making them feel welcome and secure. I hope this comment moves up. I'll let you know once my sister wakes up to the truth about her kid. When my son was in 5th grade, he often come home complaining of kids bullying him. One day a kid kicked him in the head, other day someone make him trip over, and so on. The day he told me other kid have peed in my son's shoes, I had enough. I asked for a conference teacher parent. The teacher told me, your kid is not the victim here, he is the bully. What he does not want is to other kids to defend themselves. He got pee in his shoes because he pushed the kid who was peeing. He thought he was being funny and did not understand why kids fight back. It took us several years to change that. Here for the tips on how to handle my bully 4-year-old. Originally read that as here for tips on how to bully my 4-year-old. My son came home from a Catholic school dance last night. One troubled kids in class, basically neglected, was running up to girls asking for phone numbers. When one too many girls refused, he followed her around, calling her a S. He was also slapping girls' butts and got in several fights with other kids. My son came home disturbed. He said, "How can you do that to someone?" They tried to get him to stop, but nothing would stop him aside from punching him. Seems like you've got a good kid. Like the owners of bad dogs, they jaff. There are no bad dogs, only bad owners. I'm not a parent, but I have a story. When I was in the 6th grade, I lived in a pretty rough area of Savannah, Georgia, and had to go to a pretty bad school. Every day was the literal worst day of my life. I hated it. There was a girl there who would just torment me for literally no reason. It got to the point where I had to be homeschooled because I didn't want to go back to the school, but what pushed me to be homeschooled is one day the girl asked me for a hug and it was weird, but I still did it. Next thing I know, I feel her like slowly sliding the razor from a pencil sharpener across the back of my neck. When I went to teach her, it wasn't an immediate punishment of the girl. Instead I was asked, what did I do, and as it went on and on, my teacher didn't believe me and couldn't find evidence of a razor. So the next day, I just pretended to be sick and that one sick day turned into 3. On the 2nd or 3rd day my mom got upset because I was missing school, and so I just told her what happened. The next day, she enrolled me in the K-12 virtual academy and we had to go to the school to get the teacher to sign a paper, and then told her she was withdrawing me from school because there was a girl who kept bothering me. She then asked me who the girl was while I was standing in the hallway, and when I pointed her out, my mom just went off, stating that she should kick her little disrespectful butt and whatnot. The incident was reported to the principal afterwards, and I don't know what happened later, but I still don't feel like the situation was resolved well enough. Some bullies are literally picking on kids for no reason, and that just breaks my heart because it's not right to mess with a kid's emotional state to the point where they feel like they'll be targeted even after reporting the situation or whatnot. I freaking hate bullies and the parents who are parents of bullies. Seriously, put your child in your check. There were so many parents of bullies in my school who knew what their child was doing and didn't care. Sounds like she was taking the intermediate steps to becoming a full-blown psychopath. My husband is a teacher. In his experience, the parents that are horrified that their child bullies don't have children that stay bullies for very long. Bullying behavior is well learned at home. I like this question a lot. It's a shame there aren't many answers. Victim of bullying here. Most parents never knew. My school completely suppressed any bullying issues, and at least in my case, I was always the one to blame. I am not exaggerating at all when I say 5 times throughout elementary school someone would intentionally break my glasses and I would get sent to the office. And every time you should have left him alone you were annoying him, or best yet you're just trying to get him in trouble. The school wanted to look like they didn't have any bullying at all, so they blamed victims and denied everything. I have another big story but no time to type it right now, so if anyone wants I'll say it later. Please do. I've never seen a parent deal with it. My parents put me in martial arts, and now that I'm an adult I try to get bullies into martial arts and help teach them discipline and a code, for lack of a better word. I'd like to think it helps. My boy, let me tell ya. 1st grade, he decides to run his little mouth, telling this girl, 2nd grader, much bigger than him too, that she's fat. She pushed his little butt down and stepped on his head. Bet you won't do that again, will ya? No, sir. Good, cause you do that again, you can expect the same thing to happen again. It's easier making friends. And then Jesus clapped. Put an emphasis on teaching empathy. Empathetic children aren't likely bullies. I think there is a failure to teach empathy in the US and the resulting societal problems are evident. Not a parent of a bully, but of a bullied kid. The bully's mother found out when they showed up to my son's birthday party, which the bully was not invited to and wasn't even given information about. When I saw them walk in I talked to her, telling her that my son didn't actually want her son there due to the bullying. She was really nice about it, apologized, talked to her son about it, had him apologize, and the kids were able to get along for the afternoon. She really had no idea where anything was happening and she legit felt bad about it, like close to tears feeling bad. The kicker, I had been calling or going into the school multiple times each week for the previous month and a half, reporting, by name, that this kid had been bullying my son. It was to the point that my son was faking illness to avoid school and was having breakdowns on weekends because he knew he'd have to deal with this kid the following Monday. The staff at the school acted like we were overreacting or making it up or would give me it doesn't fit our definition of bullying because there's no actual imbalance of power. I found out our daughter was a bully and beat the daylights out of a girl. Apparently the girl was targeting my daughter for being adopted and have two queer dads. My daughter is a tough cookie and ignore the girl. However, the girl started to target her friend with an eating disorder. It started with words and then it got physical. So our daughter took the girl and beat her till she was black and blue, while telling her how worthless and ugly her words are making her. How her parents chose to have her while her parents made a mistake and now it is an ugly and worthless mistake. Our daughter was suspended for a week and was ordered to see a therapist about her anger issues. The girl never bullied again. She changed by getting new and better friends. Even apologized to our daughter's friend. JFC, your daughter is something else. Like she went overboard, but she was kinda in the right on this situation. She is chaotic good. I found out because my son claimed he was being bullied on the bus. I had suspicions that it could be the other way around because he's very involved in jiu-jitsu, won several tournaments. Needless to say, I was surprised that someone could actually bully him. I called the principal to have him pull video from the bus to see what was going on. Needless to say, he kept messing with another kid, flicking his hair, or patting him on the head. It wasn't an outlandish bully tactic, but certainly a beginning to something. I had the principal sit him at the front of the bus the rest of the school year, to and from school. I did talk to him about why he was acting out. It's fun. The kid makes fun of everyone else, was his answer. He learned a lot about empathy and compassion that week, that just because someone else acts out, doesn't mean he has to. For a week straight he sat in his room after school on the floor and did his homework, then extra work for school, then went to bed. It seems to have stuck as he has been a student of the month and week a few times since then and is overall a respectful child to everyone. Found out my stepdaughter was sending harassing text messages to another girl at her daycare. The way I found out, the mom posted screenshots on a mom's group and released my stepdaughter's name. Anyway, I contacted her immediately and let her know there would be consequences. We took her phone for a month. Me, her mom, her dad, all had a separate conversation with her about bullying and how it affects people. I then had her write out a 2-page letter apologizing to the girl and the girl's mom. I found out yesterday that my 3-year-old son threw a rock at a girl in his daycare, pushed the rock in her face, and pushed her over. Last night he was not able to play with his toys, have us read to him or get story time at bedtime. The worst part about it for him was that we insisted we talk about it for a solid hour. We let him tell his side, not much there, and told him how he hurt her and made him explain what he did wrong. We also role-played saying sorry to her. When I dropped him off this morning, we went straight to the girl and apologized. He was too nervous and couldn't do it, so we went outside, talked about it more and practiced again. Then he went in and actually apologized. I then talked to the teacher to make sure I had an accurate understanding of what he did. I think this is a good first step, but I have no belief that this is the end of it. We will talk again tonight and we are going to have to figure out how we can teach him how to understand the difference between being excited, playing hard, and hurting. I hope this doesn't sound naive in a few years. Let me tell you the truth. Parents of kids who bully don't care. They are crappy parents who think their kids can do no wrong, or they exhibit the same types of problems that their kids display. Source: bullied for 6 years and every single time the bully's parents were insanely crappy people. Sometimes they were worse. My oldest daughter is tall, with blue eyes, long blonde hair, and a striking personality. When she was in first grade, I noticed that she and her clique of friends were starting to get very mean about other kids around them. They'd talk crap about them, behind their backs. Some pretty mean stuff, considering their age. I calmly pulled my daughter aside, and told her to watch how her friends talk about other kids, behind their backs. That's how your friends talk about you, behind yours. The advice clicked instantly with her, and her personality changed dramatically. She went from being the I need to be the popular girl to a quieter, bookwormish type. She started choosing different friends. Her grades went up. It probably also helped that she changed schools the next year and got a fresh start. Notably, when her younger sister and another girl in the neighborhood started getting picked on, she jumped in to protect them. I'm truly proud of who she is. So I was the child here. I was kinda a bully in elementary school, diagnosed with ADD and ADHD at the time and just starting to receive treatment for it. Anybody that knows anything about early treatments of ADHD knows that there are many different medications with many different side effects. Well, some of the medicine I was taking at the time contributed to intense bouts of anger and I would normally bully people. Then my parents found out. Now in my child mind, my dad beat the ever-living crap out of me, but I know that wasn't the case cause I never had a scratch on me. After that, I remember I was sitting in my room crying. Remember, my dad didn't actually hurt me, just did what bullies on Nickelodeon do pretty much. And my dad comes in and sits down next to me. Hey buddy, you okay? Why are you mean to me? I love Blade. You know that, don't you? Nothing in the world could ever make me stop loving you. But then why were you so mean to me? Because you don't feel good right now, do you? The way you feel, that's how you make those kids at school feel, the ones you call your friends. Do you think your friends like feeling the way you do right now? Do you think they like being friends with a bully? Listen, I know it's especially hard for you, and you're still growing into the big boy I know you'll be someday. That will make me proud. But I will never be proud of a bully. Every action you take has a consequence, and only you can decide whether you want that consequence to be good or bad. Now of course, this wasn't just a OMG. I talked to my 7 or 8-year-old child once and he understood it and never bullied again, but that conversation really stuck with me. It took a while, but I eventually understood what they meant and now I stick up for those who are bullied. Every kid is different and finding the right way to break through to them may prove difficult, but the first thing to do is acknowledge that what your child is doing is not okay, and as painful as it may be, they may even be doing it because of you. I hope someone on this subreddit finds this useful. My 15-year son bullied for a little bit, not so much in the traditional sense of overtly aggressive harassment. He was more so an inconsiderate jerk and annoying kid. He was pestering another kid one day, and part of that pestering involved stepping on the kid's shoe. That kid ended up punching him as a result. My son's version only included the part where he was punched. He tactfully left out the part where he was agitating the poor other kid. The school has cameras, so when the footage revealed that my son was the instigator, I shook my head and told him to stop being an butthole and that he deserved to get punched. Sad part, the kid that punched him got suspended for it. School logic. At my school both kids would be suspended. I found a book that helped our son. It's called Have You Filled a Bucket Today by Carol McLeod. It's all about increasing your happiness by making others feel good. It's geared towards very young children, but it's an excellent resource to start the conversation. Primary school teacher here. Parents deny to the hills about their kids being bullies. They will use every opportunity to excuse why their kid is doing it. Jimmy has been hitting Sally constantly. Well, it's because Sally was said Jimmy was thick, I would do the same. Sarah's singling out Jessica from her group, telling her she can't be friends with anyone. No, it's the other way around. All this leads to is the bully not seeing the consequences of their actions, not taking ownership. My mom told me if I didn't kick their butt then she would kick mine. So I fought all my bullies and they eventually left me alone. I discovered football players tend to get kicked off the team if they get in a lot of fights, lol. Nice. My grandpa basically told me the same thing. He said if anyone bullies you just punch them in the nose. Then he told me not to worry about getting in trouble if it meant retaliating against a bully. But it turns out I was always the biggest kid in school, so never had an issue. Not a parent but an aunt, I noticed my 15-year-old nephew was becoming a real internet troll type. He was making friends but I noticed all of his humor with his best friend was against this one girl they were hanging out with. I explained to him the difference between being an butthole and being funny and that it's not worth a joke if there's a risk of possibly being a jerk. He blew me off at first but then found out the girl recently tried to kill herself. He came back to me and told me what an butthole he felt like and how scared he was that his jokes impacted her. I tried to just turn it into a teaching moment for how he can change now rather than continuing being a douche later. My stepson has been busted being a bully a handful of times in the last year. He's never alone in it and is usually caught doing so with friends or others at school. I've explained to him his reputation in the neighborhood and how people view him. He got upset by that. He's calmed down quite a bit and is generally a sweet kid, but unfortunately his real father is verbally abusive, tries to physically intimidate women and anyone weaker than him, and teaches him that anger solves everything. It's okay to treat others hostile, that school isn't important. Sadly, He looks up to his dad and the state I live in believes that no matter how bad a person is, they deserve time with their kids, regardless of the harm it does. At this point it's a waiting game to see how my stepson turns out, but my wife and I just do what we can to teach him right from wrong and how others should be treated. I found out by a teacher reporting my son was picking on another kid. I took him on a car ride and told him a very sad story about how I used to get bullied and how it made he feel so scared and alone. I asked him how he felt about that happening to me. Almost had him crying and he hugged me and said he felt so bad for me. I asked him how he felt about the bullies that tormented me. He was upset by their actions. Never punished him, never mentioned the details of what I heard. Never happened again and I did follow up. Now he stands up for the ones getting bullied. That's how you raise decent human beings. Teach empathy, ask questions, guide them to find the answer on their own. I couldn't do anything because he was going to kick my butt. I'm a parent of 2 young kids and I have to agree with some of the posters here that if your child is acting out in class then the blame is on you and it needs to be corrected right away. When my son started attending school, JK, all the reports from the teachers were fantastic. However, his older sister came home and reported that her brother had punched a girl at recess and it wasn't the first time he had hit another kid. That very night we had a conversation about how it's never okay to hit anyone, especially girls. However, it was only after letting him tell his side of the story that I discovered that all these incidents happened at the same time and the same spot. The line up to enter the school after recess, and he stressed that these kids were rule breakers and didn't follow the teacher's orders. I came to realize that in an attempt to structure my kids' lives I had created a system of rules they had to follow at home that was far too rigid, and as a result my son couldn't mentally handle kids at school not following the rules. I explained to him that we cannot control other people's actions, and even if it really bothers you it's not okay to hit and it's better to just let things go and move on with your day. I have relaxed on the rules at home and I can now accept kids will be kids and it's okay if they make a mess or leave toys on the floor. They are both wonderful kids and just being in their presence make my heart happy. I was told my preschooler was, during his 2nd year, starting to bully. After looking into it, he was standing up to the class bully who picked on everyone and actually hit. Numerous other parents were aware of the bully and couldn't get it handled. His parents didn't give a frick. I told my son that he can defend himself and others if the teacher doesn't. I hated that kid. He was even aggressive to parents at random. Then I overheard his dad threaten to whoop him for peeing his pants at nap. Frick, crappy parents making life heck for everyone. I wouldn't call my son a bully, but I don't think anyone would call their kid a bully. But I think he learned his lesson. When he was 10 or 11 he came home with a black eye. I asked him what happened. He said some kid just punched him. I was like, nobody just randomly punches people. There has to be a reason. He told a story of a disagreement over something, so the kid just swung. I asked him, did you hit him? He says no, so I called the school and talked to the VP. A day later I got a call back and after some investigation it turns out my boy was in the wrong, so he pushed this kid. The kid answered with a right hook. That was it. Both of them were suspended. I believe my son is a good person. Like his dad, he can have a temper. I told him that he wasn't the victim. He had the black eye, but it was what led to it that was the issue. Sometimes being a good person is more important than being right. And then there is the lying. Lying just makes things worse. While I was upset about the whole thing, I realized my boy had been through the gambit of emotions from the ordeal and needed me to be a little compassionate. He was wrong. Got angry. Got punched. Got embarrassed. Got scared. Lied. And then embarrassed again. In the end I made sure he knew I was extremely disappointed, but I really wanted him to learn and be a good person from his experience. He's never had an issue again. He's dated the same sweet girl for 2 years. He is graduating this year and then heading off to college. I got bullied by my entire town from 2nd grade to high school. It all started because we moved north during busing, when they were forcing schools to desegregate in the 70s, so I got bused. Little kid from the deep south, to the black school in town. I ended up having to spend my recesses in the principal's office because I was being attacked, literally, by most of the school, because of my accent most assuredly. I was 8 years old. This unearned reputation followed me when they put me back in the white school for my own safety. Then the white kids started beating me up. I was followed home just about daily by kids, usually middle school or high schoolers who'd chase me home and beat me up if they caught me. My mom, a social worker, tried once, sort of, to stop them, but that only made it worse and I nearly got put in special education. I had previously been in G&T when the beatings started causing me to almost fail 4th, 5th, 6th and then 7th grade. By 7th grade even teachers were picking on me and encouraging other kids to pick on me. Finally, at 15, after the cops started picking on me as well, I attempted suicide. My mom, unable to convince the courts I should be emancipated, finally sent me to live with my abusive dad for my last year of high school, where I finally escaped only to be persecuted for being a Yankee in my new high school in the deep south. The 70s sucked. Bullying destroys people. You fought the long fight, man. I'm glad you persevered. My mom found out that my sister was being a bully. It wasn't the kind of life sucks, so I'm going to take it out on others, but more of the peer pressure. Cool with the popular girls crap. Mom reminded her about how sister, had bully issues in the past and said she was being just like them. She also basically said she wants nothing to do with a bully and walked out. Harsh, but definitely effective. I found out my eldest daughter is bullying her younger sister and their mum, my wife. The eldest has her own screaming reign of terror to get her way. The eldest is autistic and attacks her mum whenever possible to get her way. Unfortunately, mum doesn't nip it in the bud and I feel bad for intervening. Mew is physically scarred from the biting, scratching, punching and kicking that takes place. And yes, I smack her if any of the above happens to me, and unsurprisingly I don't get the same level of violence. And yes, I feel ashamed for resorting to smacking to fix it. It makes me feel like a horrible dad tbh and I wish I could find a better way to resolve it. My stepmom is in denial of my brother being a bully. She does admit when he's being an butthole but doesn't actually punish him other than looking at me going, why is my kid such an butthole? Yes, you can take my phone. Like this video and this good boy will play you a nice song. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.